Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV for an update interview with Labrador Uranium. And Stephen Keys, the CEO, is here with us. Good morning to Canada. How are you, Stephen?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Not too bad, not too bad. A bit exhausted. We still have been at the Edelmetall Messe in Munich and was quite 2 busy days.
You know what? That's a good thing. People always like, when you see lots of faces, people are usually pretty happy.
That's right. That's right. There'll be also a lot of interest in uranium. That was really interesting. And that looks great. I'm a shareholder of your company. I have to disclose that upfront also. And I thought it's time to do an update as I think, you guys have been quite busy. So maybe you want to give us a short wrap up over the last, let's say, 6 months as you did summer drilling, etc. So what does it look like?
Look, it's been an exciting few months. Obviously, we started and finished now our inaugural drill and exploration campaign. And we'll talk about that in a minute. We've been looking at expanding our portfolio so that although we started with about 140,000 hectares of land in the prolific Central Mineral Belt in Labrador, we've now grown that to about 152,000 hectares. We're about to close on an acquisition of a project called Anna Lake, and it has a historical resource there as well. So that has about 5 million pounds of uranium. So really that's another 50% more actual uranium in the ground that we have. And what's exciting there is northeast of that, even before we made that acquisition, our geological team was very excited about what they were seeing northeast of that project. And we accumulated all the land around it before that acquisition. So, we've got Anna Lake now, which will close this week. In and around Moran Lake, not only were we able to do some exploration and put a little over 2,700, 2,500 meters of drilling in the ground, but we are also able to pick up a small piece of land right there along the trend, also in Moran Lake, that we didn't previously own. So we've cleaned up the land package. We've added tons to our bottom line, and we've really improved our prospectivity for this year. If you recall, our exploration and development plan has 2 fundamental pieces. One is the on-the-ground hard exploration, and so we finally got that up and running this summer. But there's also this modern data-focused approach, the machine learning that we're building, and we were able to announce in September, and hopefully in the near future we'll be able to talk about it more, finding that this is yielding results and we're zoning in on some new targets. So really looking forward to what the 2023 season and beyond looks like as we try to grow the company.
Okay, as we are already talking about 2023, which was a bit faster than I thought, but let me bring up this photo, from your presentation here, which I think is quite interesting. So first of all, we see a beautiful photo of your camp here on the left side. That's great. So what's going on then here? What do you want to show us?
So I think all of this is good. So firstly, the camp, obviously we were a new company this year. No one's done a lot of work here in almost 10 years. So starting a field camp, getting that up and running, that takes time. It costs a lot of money where we are, but now we have the infrastructure in place. We have that site set and permitted, that in our future campaigns, we've now got that established. So that's exciting, and it's a great central location for us to work from. The other 2 things to look at here, I'm a very honest man, so I'll say the good and the bad, right? So our target this year with the drilling campaign, especially in the field campaign, was work in and around the Moran Lake project. Why? Because firstly, that was our existing resource. We had a historical uranium vanadium resource in the ground there already. And so as we took ownership, we wanted to do some work around there with one fundamental question: can it grow? As it sits today at about a 20 million pound historical uranium equivalent, we don't believe it's big enough to be a mine where we are. And so the goal there is to grow it. So we did announce a fairly aggressive $5.5 million, 4,000 meter drill campaign. In the end, we probably completed a little over half of that campaign. We weren't able to get it all done. Weather was not our friend. The hurricane came and shut things down. We had snow come 2 weeks early. But what we did find is in that exploration work, we were able to find what looked like extensions of the Moran Lake deposit looking southwest of where we are. And if our assays come out showing that that is true, it looks downhole, it looks in the core that we might find extensions, that will be very exciting for us, because this thing does need to add tons to make it work, or pounds, I guess, of uranium to make it really work. And so that's what we're doing. And there's still quite a bit of work to be done northeast of it. If you recall past conversations, on this map, if one is able to look closely, every one of those red dots is a known uranium occurrence. And so you can see that there is this northeast southwest trend coming around where our Moran Lake resource is. And so the easiest thing for us to do is to develop those targets to see, again, does Moran Lake grow? With a goal of doing something similar to what Aurora did. And Aurora, to remind your listeners, was acquired by Paladin Energy for over $260 million in, I believe, 2011, just east of us here. And they did this, they did what we're trying to do, which is they started with a small resource, and then they tried to expand it by multiple drill campaigns. It didn't end up being one single large deposit. It was a few smaller deposits, but they were able to get 100 million pounds plus or minus of uranium in the ground. And that's the sort of target we're looking for around Moran Lake. And that's why that was our first drill campaign. Mm-hmm. That being said, we have this immense tract of land. It's over 125 kilometers. It's now over 150,000 hectares, and it has been explored for over 50 years. So just like I said that the red dots on that map were known uranium, all the green dots on that map are known copper occurrences. And very little, if basically no drilling or real intense work has ever been done on that copper. So we're starting to chase that work as well, with a view towards generating new targets and creating new projects. Mm-hmm. And because we've been able to use that historical data, we have started to and apply our own machine learning, artificial intelligence. We are starting to generate new targets. So not only do we have, and I don't know if you can see my arrow, what's happening here around Anna Lake in the northeast of where we are. Again, that's the new acquisition, which we hope to close in the next week or so. It has a historical resource, but all around it, we see not only uranium, but copper as well. The resource comes with rhenium and molybdenum already on that resource, historical resource. So that, and we'd already generated that target with previous work before we acquired it. And prior to completing our drill season, we actually identified 2 holes southwest of our Moran Lake deposit that we would like to test for potential iron ore, copper, gold deposits. This is, again, just to remind your listeners, along this belt, there's an incredible amount of geological potential. There have been 4 historical mountain building phases. So the deep structural, faults and folds that we have, the fluids that have come with that, have the potential of giving us this incredible endowment, geological endowment. We know it's there because, again, you've got Michelin at 100 million pounds to the east of us. We've got our Moran Lake. We've got Anna Lake. So we know there's uranium, but there's a lot of copper, gold, iron ore in this basin, and no one has ever run that to ground. And so our view moving forward, and our goal is grow Moran Lake, grow Anna Lake, but let's find some other projects within this thing. We think there could be 5, 6 plus actual projects that we could be going after, as opposed to just random, findings of stuff, like things that could be turning into real mines, hopefully in the future.
Exactly. I mean, that would be, let's say, the final sense what you need. I mean, that you say, okay, here's the processing plant, and I have 4, 5, 6 satellites, and we can feed them like a hub and spoke strategy, right?
Well, exactly. And that's what you're seeing. And you've seen this in many, the hub and spoke works well as long as you've got a few things going forward. Shallow is your friend, which is good because our uranium deposits are quite shallow. But this is an area where we should, for lack of a better term, we should be elephant hunting. The potential to find a very large deposit here is quite real. And most of the historical work here has just been superficial. No one's ever owned this entire belt. No one's gone after deeper targets. And the name of what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring value to shareholders. And you do that by making discoveries And uranium is our #1 target. It's a very rich belt for uranium. But look, if I can find a massive IOCG or just copper deposit, then great. That's just additional value to shareholders, and you can do something with that in the future. Does this become multiple companies or not? Those are future problems or advantages. But that's the direction we're trying to take this in, and this year has allowed us to sort of move that forward.
Okay, super. Then I have also another question, because I saw so far that the lengths of your intervals are between, let's say, 10 centimeters and 8.5 meters with 80 to 900 counts per second or up to 2,900 counts per second. So one might think, that's maybe a bit short, the interval. Or is it just given the fact that you could not drill completely, and maybe that you said, hey, no, first we have to look and then we do the fine tuning?
So it's a bit of both. That comment at the end is probably the most accurate one. But step one for us was, can this grow? That is the question we always have to ask, because if it's not going to grow, then we have to move on. We can spend our money other places. So far it looks like we have found some extensions, and that's what the CPS, like that radioactivity counts, is going to tell us. With the nature of how this sort of folds and moves and whatnot, we don't know the answer yet of how much this extends. We don't have the assays. So being able to say what those counts translate to, we still don't know. It is significantly above background levels. We know it's radioactive. We're highly confident it's uranium. But with respect to like the thickness and the intervals, your point is very well made. Like at present, some of those aren't going to be necessarily mineable. That's not really what we're trying to do right now. Question one, you take this step out 1-2 kilometers away. Is there stuff there? We know there's sniffs of it. Now we can start honing in around it. I don't expect, and we never did expect, this exploration season to be the kind of thing where we say, oh, look, we've got 20 meters of 1% uranium. Let's go. That's not what this basin is going to have. But really, it's about, can we add relatively near surface pounds in a way that's mineable? And everything we'll have done this season will still end up giving us question marks. But the question marks lead us to, do we keep digging? Like, do we keep going in that direction, or is it just dead? Southwest of where we are, we're not seeing that it's dead. We see that it's there, but it will be tricky. Again, it's not going to be, it doesn't seem at least like it's going to be one singular giant deposit. And if one looks at the historical work around you, there's several areas where you have 3 million pounds, the 5 million pounds, and then they cut off. So it's the exercise in trying to hone down, where are these pods? And sometimes that radioactivity might not really intersect what you're looking for, but it might tell you you're close or far, right? So it's still a bit of a mystery novel that we're trying to decipher.
Okay, super. Question, can you drill then in the winter? Because when everything is frozen, I could imagine that's much easier then.
You can, and at times it's actually advantageous. Like, for example, with Mustang Lake, it sits on a lake, like it sits underneath the lake. So your complete goal is to drill in the winter. We won't drill this winter. We just don't think we have enough new targets to really spend that kind of money, because it's also incredibly expensive. But we will try to fly some fairly comprehensive geophysics. It can be expensive, but that's where, again, if you recall, there's over probably half a dozen companies or so had pieces of this land before. So it's never been consolidated into one. And therefore, that sort of singular high-level geophysics that tries to tie it together or look for some of these larger structures has never really been done. And that's one of the things we're trying to do. So hopefully we can accomplish that this winter. There's some other geophysics we were doing that was ground geophysics in and around Mustang Lake as well, with a goal towards getting us set up for our 2023 campaign. And having gone through 2022, there were a lot of lessons we learned, which I think will make us more efficient this year. Again, we only accomplished about half of our goals this year. Some of that was just new company, getting ourselves up and running, being very aggressive. Remember, we only listed in March. But the other is, sometimes weather gets in the way. But if we can get on the ground, which we now expect to a few weeks earlier, and we'll have done the machine learning, we've got some more geophysics, we should be able to be a little more specific and more targeted next season.
Super. So that means we have some hopefully then exciting times next year in front of us.
Yeah, look, I think we've got a lot exciting coming in front of us. I think we've got the geophysics coming up. We've got the assay results from this past season coming up. I think we will hopefully see within the next while a fairly comprehensive map that's coming out of that machine learning program, such that finally, I think one of the goals that we have is to show the world, but most specifically investors, what we really have. Right now, we're in a position where we can talk about, Moran Lake, Mustang, and soon Anna Lake. Great. But if we have multiple other projects, investors can start to understand that, oh my gosh, we actually have many ways in which we can deliver value and growth potential for the company. And all that takes us straight into then the next exploration season. So there's quite a bit of news to come. But yeah, I think, look, this is the kind of company that every future year will be better, in that we need to develop those projects and then you make decision points after that is what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And uranium prices are working and walking in our favor. That's also important. Last question, and I want to bring up something here again, because I think that's really interesting, your company Snapshot. So you still have over $11 million in the bank, right? That's fantastic, I would say.
Yeah, look, one of the things we're very cognizant of, especially at the board level, is we're trying to be very careful with our cash. Yes, we have to put it in the ground. You're an exploration company. You don't spend money. You don't advance it. You're not helping anyone. But you want to be smart in how you manage your cash. We decided not to spend it all this season, mostly because, well, you can see from the weather, we probably wouldn't even been able to, but it is an iterative program. We are learning. And what we didn't want to have happen is be subject to needing or having to raise money in a really negative market. And we've seen over the last few months, juniors have been crushed, right? And although uranium is giving us these great tailwinds, everyone is getting pushed down really badly in their valuation. So to have to raise money is you're not really helping people out. As an exploration company, you will always look for money. I could spend between 5 million and 20 million next year if I want. But we try to be strategic. We don't want to blow up the capital structure, and we want to make sure we do things in a way that's accretive. So you try to finance at the best possible value. But it is something, it's a board mandate to be very careful, and we review that pretty regularly.
Super. So those 11 million will bring you through next year?
It can. Look, so the answer is yes. But, right? And the but is, how aggressive do we want to be? When you
of course.
Let's say you have 6 targets. You can't drill 6 targets for that kind of cash. We have had, like, the last sort of quarter has not been great on our share price. And again, that's not just us. That's the universe we're in. But as your point is, like, uranium is in our favor, and we're doing what we're supposed to do. So it doesn't take a lot for this thing to fundamentally turn around on a value prospect point of view. But to be brief, for what we want to do, we can do it all right now. I'm confident my geologists would happily take a lot more. But again, it's about prudency and managing that resource very well, because other than uranium, our other resource is cash.
If I look at your warrants, and they come from the financings for sure. So if I take, it's probably 1.5 years until they all expire, and if I calculate them all together, it's easily $5 to $6 million. So that would help a lot, especially at those much higher. But they are all out of the money.
They're all out of the money, but again, that's exactly right. If one of the reasons one offers warrants on a financing or provides options to a team and advisors and whatnot, is the goal is to grow yourself into the point where those are of value, right? And then it becomes, relative to what you previously financed at, it's less dilutive to take money at that level. So look, it's something we hope to be able to achieve. We've achieved those share levels and more before. And so now it's our job and hopefully the markets to get us back up there. But yeah, it could bring in a few $1 million, which also is a very big thing for us. And then one thing to realize within the context of what we have, if money becomes that important thing, in the context of the Canadian market, being a Canadian resource exploration company, you can always raise money using flow through or charity flow through, which you actually do at a premium. Which, a lot of your listeners can't really have access to because they're not here. But that is an advantage that we have. So you can do financings in a less dilutive manner. But for now, right, if I can get the warrants and options to come in the money, then that's even better.
Yeah, the best thing to come to the end is what I see is that Dave Talbot, whom I know also personally, gives you a $135 price target. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's interesting is I just recently I'm a bit of an information. I'm trying to use the right word, but I'm an information geek. I try to read as much as I can, and we've recently seen some work starting to happen in this basin with Paladin coming back in. And the Canaccord Genuity report, I think, valued the Paladin asset, that Michelin, at over $400 million. And so, again, that's the model we're trying to follow, and we believe we will have that, if not a few of those, in our portfolio. Now we've just got to go find them and prove that to the world.
Fantastic. Sounds like a good game plan to me. Thank you very much, Stephen, for the update. And wish you all the best. And I would say keep hitting it hard and show us next year some very good results.
That's what we're trying to do. And look, I appreciate you, your support, and all your listeners. And I just hope I can do what I say, what we're going to do. And that's what we're trying. So thank you.
That would be great. Super. Thank you very much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Stephen Keys, the CEO of Labrador Uranium. You heard it. Things are going, smoothly the way how they wanted it, despite they had some weather hiccups and some other hiccups with the exploration program. But that means it's only a bit delayed. It's not cancelled, of course. But so far, it looks all really, really interesting. And I mean, they're in elephant territory, $11 million in the bank, great shareholder structure. And also, as you saw, Dave Talbot from Red Cloud Securities gives them a $1.35 price target and a buy rating. I am a shareholder. You maybe should consider to be one too. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.